Okay, so I know a lot of you in the Pi community have been on a real roller coaster, right? You see these big hopes for an exchange listing, and then, well, the charts don't always deliver. So today, we're going to cut through all that noise and focus on one single crucial question. So, Kraken has put Pi coin on its radar. And yeah, that's a pretty big deal. But what would it actually mean for the price if it ever became a real tradable coin on their platform? In this explainer, we're going to break down the facts, we're going to look at the data, and we're going to give you a clear, totally hype-free analysis. All right, let's dive in. First things first, what do we actually know for sure? What's the one concrete piece of evidence that got this whole conversation started in the first place? Let's take a look. And look, this isn't some rumor or a random screenshot somebody cooked up. This is straight from the horse's mouth, Kraken's own website. They've publicly put Pi on their roadmap. But what does being in that chains section really mean? Okay, this is absolutely the crucial point. Chains integration is a technical behind-the-scenes step. It means Kraken's engineers are probably doing the groundwork to support the Pi blockchain. It's a huge signal of credibility, for sure. But, and this is a big but, it does not mean you can trade it today. Think of it like this. They're laying the foundation, but the house isn't built yet. Because of that, we really need to draw a super clear line in the sand. We have to understand the massive difference between this signal of intent and what an actual tradable live market looks like.
It's really simple when you see it side by side. On the left, you've got the signal. It's a web page, a roadmap item. It's all about what they plan to do. But on the right, you've got the reality of market access. A real listing means you can actually deposit your Pi, trade it for dollars, and then withdraw your money. One is a promise, the other is a functioning tool.
And to make it even easier, here's a simple 3-point checklist for you. We just can't call this a real listing until at least one of these 3 things happens. You either have to see a tradable pair, like Pi USD, pop up on the exchange, or you see that you can actually deposit and withdraw Pi, or Kraken itself makes an official, hey, trading is now live announcement. Until then, it's just a signal. And here's a super important warning for everyone. The ticker PI isn't unique to Pi Network. Another asset, Plyin, also uses it. So if you see a screenshot of Pi trading somewhere, don't get baited. You have to check that it's actually Pi Network's coin and that the market is real before you jump to any conclusions. Always, always check the source. Okay, so we know what a real listing looks like. But what usually happens to a coin's price when it finally does get listed? Well, let's look at what history and data from literally hundreds of previous crypto listings can tell us. Research consistently shows that an initial price pop is pretty common right when a coin lists on a big exchange. But, and this is key, the size of that pop is all over the place. More importantly, a listing creates what's known as a sell the news risk. This is where all the long-term holders, people who've been waiting for this moment, finally get a chance to sell their coins into real cash. And that wave of selling can just crush the new buyers if the demand isn't there. And now, for the part I know you've all been waiting for. Based on what we've seen happen in the past, let's explore some plausible scenarios for Pi's price if trading actually goes live. Now remember, I have to be super clear. These are educated guesses based on market dynamics, not crystal ball predictions. So this table breaks it down based on the overall mood of the crypto market. You see, in a bear market, you might get a smaller pop that fades pretty quickly as people just use the opportunity to get out. In a more stable sideways market, the gains might actually stick around. And of course, in a full-blown bull market, a listing like this can be like rocket fuel, driving a much bigger spike. The broader market sentiment is just a massive factor here. So what decides which of those scenarios actually happens? Well, it really boils down to these 3 things. First are the funding rails, deposits and withdrawals, fully switched on. Second, is there enough market depth, enough liquidity to handle big buy and sell orders? And finally, the big one. How many people have been waiting for this exact moment to cash out? These are the factors that will ultimately decide if any price pop can actually last. So with all that in mind, how can you track this whole situation without getting caught up in all the hype and the bad info? Well, here are the 3 concrete things you need to be watching for. This is it. This is your actionable checklist. Forget the rumors. First, look for an official "we are now live" announcement from Kraken itself. Second, log into Kraken and see with your own eyes if there's a real PI/USD market you can trade on. And third, check if you can actually deposit and withdraw Pi.
When you see these three things, you'll know the signal has finally become a reality, and then you can make your own informed decision.
So at the end of the day, we're left with the ultimate question. If a Kraken listing actually happens, is it a true game changer that fundamentally alters Pi's future, or is it just another flash-in-the-pan headline? The answer is going to depend entirely on those key drivers we just talked about. For now, treat the signal as a credible hint, not a finish line, and keep your eyes on the data. That's how you'll stay ahead of the hype.